Hello everybody, and welcome to the second fantastic episode of Surface Area and Volume. I'm your host, Cy Linder. Our learning goal for this video is that you will be able to calculate the surface area and volume of a cylinder. Well, shall we get started? Okay, I can't keep up that voice for the whole video. Okay, so a cylinder. A common example of a cylinder would be a can of soup. So let's talk about what the lateral total surface area and volume would represent for this cylinder. Remember, lateral means it's just around the sides. So we're talking about the area that's around the sides of the can. That would be like right there. In other words, that's the area of the label. If I were to take off the label would look something like this. So the lateral surface of a cylinder is actually in the shape of a rectangle, and we wrap that rectangle around the cylinder. Okay, now once I've taken off the label, then the can would look like this. This shows us that the total surface area would be the area of the metal of the can, because that would include not only the lateral area, but also the area of the two bases, because the two bases have metal on them as well. That shows you the difference between the lateral and total surface areas. What would the volume be? Well, the volume would describe the amount of soup that fits in the can. Okay, we're filling it. That would be volume. Okay, so keep those things in mind whenever you're thinking about a cylinder. Okay, so let's talk about how to find the surface area of a cylinder. Just like we did with the prisms, we can add the areas of all the faces. The formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared. So the radius being 3, because the diameter was 6, that means the area of that circle is 9 pi square centimeters. That would be in terms of pi. If I wanted it to be approximate as a decimal, then I could do 9 times pi, and that would be 28.274 square centimeters. The other circle of the cylinder is the exact same, so that would also have the same area. Now, what about the area of the rectangle? We know the formula is area equals base times height. The height is obviously 8. What about the base? Well, think about it. Remember, the lateral area could be represented by the label on a soup can. That label must fit exactly around the can. So this base here has to be the same as the circumference of the circle. So instead of thinking about it as the base, think about it as the circumference. Okay, so what's the formula for circumference? Well, that's 2 pi r. The radius is 3, so that means the circumference is 6 pi. That's the length of the base of the rectangle. The base of the rectangle is the same length as the circumference because it must fit around the can. So, if I multiply 6 pi centimeters times 8 centimeters, I would get 48 pi centimeters squared. If I wanted it as a decimal, that would be 150.796. So that right there is the lateral area of the cylinder, because there's only one lateral shape. That's the rectangle. Okay? Now, the surface area, the total surface area, I would add all the areas of the different shapes on the net. So that would be 9 pi plus another 9 pi plus 48 pi. That's 66 pi. I could also add the decimal versions to get 207.345 square centimeters. You could get the same decimal version by typing 66 pi into the calculator as well. So that's just based off of adding the areas of all the different faces on the cylinder. But you could also use the corresponding formulas. Let me show you where these formulas come from. Remember, the lateral area for a prism was the perimeter of the base times the height. Well, The base of a cylinder is the circle. So the perimeter of a circle, what do we call that? That's the circumference. Okay? So since the formula for circumference is 2 pi r, then the lateral area of a cylinder would be 2 pi rh. Now you could just use the prism formula if you wanted to. That way you wouldn't have to remember another formula. But sometimes it's easier just to plug into 2 pi rh than it is to do them as two separate steps. For the total surface area, remember for a prism it was perimeter of the base times height plus 2 times the area of the base. Once again, the perimeter is just the circumference, the height is the height, and the area of the base, because it's a circle, is pi r squared. So that would be 2 pi r squared. Okay, so those are the formulas. To do the lateral area, I could substitute 3 for the radius and 8 for the height. Then if I multiply the 2 times the 3 times the 8, that would give me 48 pi inches squared. That's the same as we just got on the other one. There's the decimal version. Alright, so now for the total surface area, I would plug in those numbers. The first part is still the same 48 pi we had before. If I do 2 times 3 squared is 9, times 2 is 18, so that would be 18 pi. Add it up, 66 pi inches squared, and the same decimal value we had before. Alright? Lastly, let's look at the volume. Similarly, we can use the prism formula to see where the cylinder formula comes from. Since the volume of a prism is the area of the base times its height, then the area of the base would be pi r squared because the base is a circle. So the volume would be pi r squared times h. There, that's pretty simple, right? That's also an easy way to remember the formula for a cylinder, so you don't have to remember as many formulas. So in this case, the volume is pi times 3 inches quantity squared times 8 for the height. If I square the 3, that would be pi times 9 square inches times 8 inches. If I multiply that out, that would be 72 pi. What would the units be? Then, if I have inches squared times another inches, that would be inches cubed. Its decimal version, if you just type it in the calculator, is 226.195 inches cubed. Alright, well, that's all, folks. This is Cylinder signing out. Okay, see you guys later.